Couldn't he just have forgiven?
Because this is a moral universe, Richard, and just forgiving doesn't make sense.
Here's a fascinating segment of debate between John Lennox and Richard Dawkins on science and God.
Do you really think that the creator of this magnificent edifice of the universe, the expanding universe, the galaxies, he really couldn't think of a better way to get rid of the sins on this one little speck of dust than to have himself tortured? He's the one who's doing the forgiving after all. Couldn't he just have forgiven?
Because this is a moral universe, Richard, and just forgiving doesn't make sense.
I mean, he has to kill himself in order
He
to...
doesn't kill himself.
Or get himself killed, tortured.
God sends his Son into the world to provide forgiveness and to provide a basis on which he can justly bring forgiveness to me. Now,
he has to get himself killed in order to do that.
Well, half a minute. We need to step back from this a little bit because it's actually a highly relevant topic. In your world, where is justice to be found?
Well, justice is a human construct of great importance in human affairs, and it's something that most of us have a sense of, which I think probably can be given some sort of Darwinian explanation, but I don't see where you're taking this.
Well, my question is there any ultimate justice? You see, you say this is petty. I'm saying I find myself in a world which is a broken world. I find myself in a world where there's massive injustice, where many people won't get it. We're so privileged, we live in Oxford and so on, we've got enough money to live on, etc., etc. But if there is no God, then there's no ultimate justice. And one of the things that the resurrection transforms for me from pettiness right into center stage is, if this is true, then there's real hope that there'll be a rational evaluation and fair justice at the end of the world. But atheism doesn't give you that.
Okay, suppose there is no hope, suppose there is no justice, suppose there's nothing but misery and darkness and bleakness, suppose there is nothing that we would wish for, nothing that we would hope for. Too bad. That doesn't make it true just because God would make us feel good.
Well, of course it doesn't.
Well, then why do you bring that argument up?
Because I believe that there is evidence that it is true.
Lennox highlights the idea of a just God, which is central to Christian teaching. Jesus' death on the cross was a display of God's own justice in paying the penalty of the sins of the world. Thereby, the cross also gives believers the assurance of ultimate justice and vindication in the life to come. While on the other hand, atheism just doesn't have any response to injustice faced by innocent people in this world. In Dawkins' own words,
too bad.
I don't believe in the resurrection just like that, because faith is based on evidence.
But you've changed your ground again. What you said before was that there is no hope without God, and it sounded...
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. Okay. You just admitted it.
I haven't admitted it. I said, if that's true, yes. So what? I didn't say it was true. But anyway,
but therefore the question to be decided then is there a God, and has he revealed himself? And that's where, again, I think this pettiness needs to be pushed aside, because I can't get to know you as a person. You're not just a scientific object. I can look at you through a telescope or a magnifying glass. I could even dissect you and so on and so forth. But because you are a person, I cannot get to know you unless you're prepared to reveal yourself to me. So the fact that the claim of Christ to be the truth, to be God incarnate, that makes perfect sense to me, because if there is a God who invented this wonderful, marvelous universe with all its science and all the rest, then he has taken the initiative in getting to know us and revealing himself to us. And he's revealed himself to us at the level we can understand. We're persons, he's a person. That at least makes sense. So one of the very important questions to ask is that really true? Or is this simply myth and fantasy?
Well, myth and fantasy for me.
Yeah, well...
For the Christians, the incarnation of Jesus is the ultimate special revelation of God to humankind. The expression of his love in the person of Christ is the proof that God is not distant but desires to connect with humankind. In his book, the atheist New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman has to say this about those people who claim that Jesus never existed. The Messiah was supposed to overthrow the enemies, and so if you're going to make up a Messiah, you'd make up a powerful Messiah. You wouldn't make up somebody who was humiliated, tortured, and then killed by the enemies.
You could possibly persuade me that there was some kind of creative force in the universe. There was some kind of physical, mathematical genius who created everything. The expanding universe devised quantum theory, relativity, and all that. You could possibly persuade me of that. But that is radically and fundamentally incompatible with the sort of God who cares about sin, the sort of God who cares about what you do with your genitals, the sort of God who is interested, who has the slightest interest in your private thoughts and wickednesses and things like that. Surely you can see that a God who is grand enough to make the universe is not going to give a tuppenny cuss about what you're thinking about and your sins and things like that.
So you think that morality is not important?
Of course I don't think morality is not important. I'm a human being.
Sounds like you're saying it isn't important.
I'm a human being, and I live in a society of human beings, and within a society of human beings, morality is of course important. But we are one of billions of planets on a huge scale, and a cosmic God who bothers about this kind of human scale is not the kind of God that is compatible with a scientific view of the universe. It's a medieval view.
But do you think that size is the measure of importance? Incidentally, on a logarithmic scale, you're about halfway between the atom and the universe. So if God thinks in terms of logarithms, your point falls, I think.
I mean, this is in a sense an emotional argument we've come into now. And
I don't think so at all.
If I were going to respect a God, it would be the kind of God the sort of God that Carl Sagan might have worshipped, not the sort of medieval God who fusses about sin, the obsession with sin and righteousness and sort of, I keep coming back to this word petty, and I stand by it.
It's intriguing that Dawkins does care about morality, but on what grounds does he base his morality? For every right and wrong, there has to be a moral judgment, and for him, he simply brushes it off as social construct. But he fails to understand that the Western social moral construct is founded on God and the Bible. The God of Christianity cares about sin so much so that he chose to send his son to die on behalf of sinful human race. We conclude with the words of John Lennox.
Because if God is real and has revealed himself, then it's through a relationship with him that we really can enjoy a full life, science included.